In this video, we're going to talk about where you can skate during this shit show we're considering the new normal. Before I get rolling, I wanted to talk to you, my fucking awesome subscribers. I know I haven't posted in way too long. In the past year or so, I've started a business, left that business, bought a house, remodeled it, changed careers, and separated from my wife of 9 years. Then sold our original house. I've had just a bit on my plate. However, I never stopped skating. I didn't skate as much as I wanted to, but I didn't stop. Now with coronavirus being a bag of dicks and shutting shit down and closing skate parks everywhere, you're probably asking, where the hell am I gonna skate? And even if I do go out, what the hell am I gonna do? The short version is skate wherever you can, or maybe wherever is safe in these crazy ass times. You don't need a skate park to skate. All you need is a parking lot, road, sidewalk, driveway, or any other shred of concrete or pavement that you can get your wheels on. Depending on where you're at geographically, or maybe more importantly mentally, it might be hard to get out and skate. Life is hard, scary, and sometimes unfair. And the coronavirus is all of those things. Speaking for myself, that's why it's more important than ever to get out and skate. It makes the hard shit easier. Skating helps me show up for the people that matter for me better, and brings me hope. I know this from first-hand experience over the past year, and even when making this video, it made quarantine less oppressive. Just get out and start looking for places when you're out on a walk, or better yet, grab your board and just skate around and scope out some spots. Here's my suggestions for what to do when you find them. I know, this one might be obvious. However, I'll be giving you suggestions that should work no matter where you live or what you have around you. And even if you suck at some of these suggestions, I chose them all because they add to the fundamentals of skating. That way you can take little pieces of what you learn and apply them to your favorite type of skating. I'm going to be covering most of these from a beginner standpoint, mostly because I'm a beginner, but even really good skaters tend to do only one type of skating. So even if you're out there killing it, there should be some things in here that you'll discover or get reminded about to mix it up a little. Stick around to the end. I'm going to share one of the skills that changed my skating completely. I'm not trying to oversell it, but this skill gave me so much confidence in pretty much every area of my riding. I can't wait to show it to you guys. Alright, first off is riding in manual. Not one of the most exciting things, but one of the harder things to master. Manuals teach you a ton of things about balance and board control, and you'll use a piece of it every time you ride a ramp or anything that has vert in it. And even low speed maneuvering like tic-tacs. I'm not an expert, obviously, but I've been told by people that are that foot placement helps a lot. They said to place your foot right behind the back of the bolts, right where the kicktail starts to curve up, and it'll help a lot with balance. This will slightly increase the amount of weight or force you'll have to use to pick the front of the board up, but it'll be a lot easier to balance when you do, because then you won't be over the tail and easily kind of shift. Honestly, if you're already doing them with your foot in another place, then keep on keeping on. But it does seem to help from what I can tell. As you can see from this and a lot of the footage today, I need a shit ton more practice to even be confident at some of these tricks. But that's kind of the whole fucking point. Next up, Ollieing. Again, this is a simple, straightforward skill that's gonna apply to pretty much any area of skating, and it'll open up a huge new area of riding to play in. Ollieing will help you navigate parks, discover new lines. Also, when you're just out riding, you're gonna constantly find something that you need to get up onto or jump off of. I'm not gonna dive deep into this one. There's a million videos out there explaining the technique and tips and tricks to learn to ollie. But the short version is, you're just gonna have to get out there and practice a metric fuck ton to get the feel for them. Timing for me, well, still is one of the hardest part of learning these. If you're just starting to practice, you're probably practicing an ollie in place, and that's fine to start with. However, I would highly recommend to start ollieing while riding as soon as possible. It might be more difficult and scary at first, but the mechanics of the ollie when you're riding is actually easier. Wherever you're at with ollies, just add something that's challenging to keep progressing. If you can already ollie, practice ollieing higher or over something that's bigger than you're comfortable with. This will help you continue to have fun and progress. This is one of those signature moves that you've seen a million times in videos since skateboards started having kicktails. It's a fairly easy move to do at low speed. It looks cool, and it's a great way to learn balance and control. You've probably already done these by accident several times when you were learning a manual. Some people like to turn their foot slightly sideways and drag the back of their heel off of the board to slow themselves down quicker. I would recommend moving on to these after you've kind of got really comfortable with the low speed ones. It's another great way to add some progression to this trick. Riding up curbs or anything is something that you will encounter everywhere. I recommend having the same placement as the manual because you will need to put enough weight on the back of the board to pick up the front slightly. That way when you ride off, you don't nosedive the front of your board into the ground. Just find something really, really tiny and low to practice this move on. That way you can avoid slams while you're getting used to the field.
Hey, so this is not the best example of a curb, but it's the only thing I can find in the neighborhood. So
the basic gist is when you are riding off of something, you want to keep the front of the board up until your back wheels leave whatever you're riding off of, and then ideally you'll be able to land on all four wheels fairly evenly on the ground. Once you get good at riding off of things, now it's time to start trying to ollie off of things. The timing again is pretty important, and I recommend picking something really small and working your way up from there. Once you get that down, you can always start challenging yourself with stairs or bigger drops. Freestyle is something that has fallen out of popularity ever since the Ollie was invented, but there's a ton of moves in freestyle that will really elevate the rest of your riding. A lot of these moves may look dated or slightly goofy by modern standards, but the skills that you'll take away from trying this are huge. First up is the tail spin or 360 spin. Think of this as the next evolution of a manual.
Things that you'll notice when you do it is that it's a lot of control around your tail, so it really helps you in your manuals, help you when you're flipping back around on transitions. That skill right there is something I'm gonna definitely be working on more because it really requires a tremendous amount of control and board balance, and I know that some people just like whip those out like there's no tomorrow. I feel like for a beginner it's like a perfect fundamental skill, and obviously it's not exactly easy, so it should be a pretty good challenge.
I don't have a whole lot of advice here. A lot of it is just practice and getting the feel for it. Next up is one-footed riding. This is one of those moves that I think you might feel goofy or weird in doing, but it's going to help you immensely in some of the simpler things like pushing and just general balance. There's also a huge benefit in learning how to stop that I'll cover later in the video. There is a bunch of freestyle moves that I didn't include in this video for time's sake, so please let me know your favorite moves that either helped you to ride better or that you just enjoy down in the comments below. First off, it's kind of a misnomer that you need a longboard to have fun in this style of skating. One of my favorite boards to cruise on is this almost penny style shortboard. To be clear, it definitely helps to have a longer board if you're gonna get out there and bomb a hill or do anything high speed. But here are my suggestions for taking whatever board you have and having a blast. As you can see here, this one that I've got is actually not that much longer than a traditional board. So it's a little bit longer, but not by much. You can tell though the wheelbase is pretty significantly different. When you get on here, you can tell the wheelbase being the distance between the trucks. What that means is at speed that you're gonna have a tremendous amount more stability the longer your wheelbase is. The other thing though that does affect is quite a bit more time in turning. So the shortboard is actually going to turn quicker. The longboard is going to turn slower in the curves, which is kind of what you want at speed because everything is kind of multiplied. The more speed you get, you can still turn this incredibly fast, but at speed. So at low speed, some of my recommendations if you're going to buy something else is make sure you get one with a kicktail so that you can still do your kick turns and maneuver at low speed. You know, I'm going to give you some options for doing it on the cheap or for free. So if you take your traditional board, street skateboard, popsicle deck, one of the easiest things to do if you're going to spend any money is to get some softer wheels. Typically the wheels that you're going to be riding are going to be like in the 90s as far as durometer goes. Some of them have different scales, so I don't want to get super technical on you, but basically longboard wheels tend to be squishy. You'll just feel it. It's more of a rubbery wheel. All wheels are made out of urethane, but this urethane is a lot harder. So the hard wheels don't have near the vibration resistance. So I live in rural North Carolina, so I don't know if you can tell, but our roads are kind of rough usually. So one of the cheap, effective ways is just use your normal popsicle deck. Loosen the trucks up, because most of the time when you're riding street, most people will tend to tighten their trucks down and it'll feel kind of wooden, and it doesn't allow for easy turning. Depending on the speed that you're going at, take that with a grain of salt. If you guys are going to be bombing hills, then you might not want to loosen your trucks up. But for just cruising around and having fun doing it, I highly recommend loosening your trucks up a little bit. If you're going to invest any money, a cheap upgrade would be to get some softer wheels. Generally in the low 80s, 78 is a very, very popular durometer, and that'll give you a really nice, soft, kind of cushy feel that will absorb a lot of the vibrations that you're normally feeling. That's my recommendations on doing it on the because you really don't need to spend money to do this. I do recommend finding a hill or some incline that you feel comfortable with. A great thing to look for is road or terrain that has a hill and then ends in a flat section or in another hill. That way you don't even have to worry about stopping or slowing yourself down. Another thing that can build your skill set for things like park skating is practicing turns on the side that you're not as comfortable with. For me, that's what I would call my backside turns, or turning towards my back. Bear in mind, this is going to vary depending on whether you're a goofy or regular rider. But getting comfortable with this will help you start to develop your own style and flow in skating, and that feels incredible. I promised that I would share the skill that really changed my skating once I learned it, and that is foot braking, or foot stopping. One of the scariest things for me as a new rider was being able to stop. I know it sounds silly, but it's so important. There's so many times when even a gentle slope was terrifying when I first started riding. Plus there's all kinds of situations, like in the park, where you need to stop before you ride off, or more likely fall off of something. Not being able to stop just makes you a scared, tight ball of nerves, and that makes you so much more likely to get hurt when you fall. So even though this isn't a sexy skill, it's so worth putting your time into, just so you don't fucking kill yourself. It's something that I don't see covered a whole lot. A whole lot of people talk about it, so I'm going to give you a very quick primer. I'm going to do probably an entire video on just learning to stop. Basically, you have to learn to ride the board with one foot and then very gingerly, very lightly drag your other foot. So I'm gonna demo that right now. When you are learning to put this other foot down, making sure that you're very kind of flatly and evenly putting your foot down, and I would even go so far as to raise my toes up just very, very slightly so that you're evenly dragging your foot. It's gonna be a trial and error. You're gonna fall. Just expect that. It's not something that you're gonna get immediately, but it's also not something that if you actually go out and practice in conditions that don't intimidate you, that you're going to spend a tremendous amount of time usually learning. Honestly, you can start the process on flat ground. I'd probably recommend that, simply because the more incline that you get, the more fear there is, and your brain shuts off, and you usually can't learn anything in those scenarios. It's going to be a little bit harder to drag your foot without kind of coming to a complete stop on flat ground, because you don't really have much speed to scrub off. However,
when you need to kind of practice there so that when you get on a hill, you have some of the skill set that you need and can actually slow yourself down. Because you have one foot on the board, it is a little bit more dangerous, so I would really recommend starting small with a very, very gentle incline. Actually start with your foot already there, kind of to hold yourself on the hill, and then gently pick it up and put it back down. So start in this position with a little bit of weight on this to keep yourself from rolling down the hill, then transfer all your weight to this foot, let yourself roll down the hill a little bit, and then start to drag this foot to slow yourself down. And it's kind of a start-stop motion, so hope that is helpful.
These are some of the things that I've been doing during the coronavirus meltdown. I really want to hear what you've been up to and what's been keeping you sane and stoked while you're stuck inside. Throw that shit down in the comments and share the love. Hit subscribe and then that bell icon, and the skate gods will be pleased. Before you go, do you want me to make another video like this? I had to cut a bunch of stuff out for time, and I know that some of you don't live near a skate park. So take this poll right here and let me know if you want to see another video like this. If you know someone that this video could help, send it to them and you'll help us both out. Till next time, just get out and skate. Be well and stay safe.